conquest, Freemasonry, the ancient order of the Rose and Cross, the Knights Templar, the sovereign and military order of the Knights of Malta, the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, the Priory de Sion, the Thule Society, or sometimes known as the Thule Society, the Order, the Skull and Bones, the Russell Trust, the Jason Society, the Scroll and Key, the Illuminati, and I could go on and on and on and on.
Throughout recorded history, mankind has dreamt of building the perfect society, an empire that might somehow satisfy the needs of every man. An ancient legend casts the shadows of one such society that is said to have existed long ago. 2,500 years ago, the Greek philosopher Plato set down a dialogue called the Critias. He recounted the story of an ancient Greek poet and statesman named Solon. Solon had journeyed to Egypt in search of wisdom to help the government of his beloved Greece. The Greeks had been beset with factions and troubles, so Solon took counsel from the priests of the city of Sais. An old priest told him, "O Solon, Solon, you Greeks are never anything but children. There is no old opinion handed down among you, nor any science that is white with age." The old priest then proceeded to tell him the story of the lost city of Atlantis. In the centuries that would follow, scholars and researchers have debated whether Plato's Atlantis was intended to be an account of real history or simply an allegorical myth. Some even suggest that Atlantis was really the antediluvian world, the wicked society destroyed by the wrath of God in the great flood of Noah. In the 20th century, Plato's account was further supported by Masonic philosopher Manly P. Hall. Hall claimed that Atlantis had once been a vast and mighty empire that extended to the whole world, a philosophic commonwealth of nations that one day was destined to be rebuilt. But who would rebuild it? And exactly who was Manly P. Hall?
Manly P. Hall was probably the most highly esteemed occultist and Freemason of the 20th century.
Hall authored over 200 books and is said to have given some 8,000 lectures on ancient philosophy. He is perhaps most remembered for his contribution to the mysterious Brotherhood of Masonry. Upon his death in 1990, the Scottish Rite Journal, a Masonic publication, noted that he was often called, quote, Masonry's greatest philosopher. Among his teachings was that contained in Masonry and all the secret orders was the ancient wisdom of lost Atlantis. Hall wrote that for more than 3,000 years, secret societies had been laboring to create a background of knowledge necessary to the establishment of an enlightened democracy among the nations of the world. According to Hall, these societies could be traced back to ancient Egypt and had for centuries known of a secret place hidden from the eyes of common men, a place that would one day be revealed. In the 17th century, as settlers were colonizing the New World, Sir Francis Bacon, the leader of secret societies in England, set down his classic work, The New Atlantis. While archaeologists and treasure hunters have searched the globe looking for the lost continent, 400 years ago, Bacon, like many of his contemporaries, believed that Atlantis was America itself. While many of the early settlers came to work the land for the cause of religious freedom, there were with them secret societies who came to the New World with another agenda.
Secret societies came to America shortly after the Pilgrims arrived, and they were sent by a man named Sir Francis Bacon.
You get this very strange mixture of people, many of whom understood even then the advantage, spiritually and otherwise, to having secret orders.
Unless you understand the influence of the occult societies on the development of America, on the establishment of America, upon the course of America, why you get completely lost studying our history.
And they were the ones through which this work was being put into operation in England, in Europe, and eventually in America and the world.
So that America then could be used to lead the world into the philosophic empire. You understand that America was founded by Christians as a Christian nation. However, there were always those people on the other side who wanted to use America, use our military power and our financial power to establish enlightened democracies throughout the world and restore lost Atlantis.
Yeah, maybe Bacon had it right. Maybe Atlantis is not something yet to occur, but maybe it's occurring right now in America.
In his lifetime, Sir Francis Bacon referred to himself as the herald of a new age. He promoted a new universal order for the whole world. Can this be what early American founders referred to with the words Novus Ordo Seclorum, the new order of the ages? And does this vision affect America today?
When our founders declared a new order of the ages, they were acting on an ancient hope that is meant to be fulfilled.
Secret societies can be traced back to the Egyptian mystery schools and the religious centers of Sumerian city-states. As time moved forward, the secrets of the ages were kept from the general public, and only those deemed worthy were able to begin their schooling of the esoteric teachings. Initiates were taught the true history of civilizations past and the religious teachings of several ancient cultures. The philosophical and spiritual ideals of nearly all religions were accessed in one single source, and as new beliefs and ideals were established, these too were adapted, and several branches of the mystery schools were able to form. It is here where we may begin to trace the roots of Freemasons. Freemasonry is the most established and influential fraternal organization which can be found throughout history. It has remained elusive and intact, evolving and shaping the way we live in nearly all aspects of life. It is the starting point of nearly all secret societies found throughout the world, and all branches of government and commerce in our modern world is a product of the influence of Freemasonry. Every major city or community in the world contains a Masonic lodge or a temple, and it is Freemasons whom have created the communities that these buildings belong to. Just as the ziggurats of Sumeria and the pyramids of Egypt, it has been the keepers of ancient knowledge whom have crafted our planet and built the centers of control and temples of worship throughout our existence. If you take a moment to look around your community, you will notice that everything from the street names, government centers, town halls, parks, lakes, rivers, city names, religious centers, law enforcement buildings, and businesses are named after Masons that were either a part of your community or had an influence on the development of your community. As revealed by the mystery teachings, one may achieve a sense of immortality by leaving a legacy on Earth before they die and pass on into the afterlife. Many have been immortalized on Earth through works of art, writings, inventions and theories, and essentially anything they have created or established. It is for this reason the Mason is honored on plaques and monuments throughout the world. Because it has existed for centuries, it has developed into a perfect system of control where there are multi-levels of initiation. Similar to the Church, there are various levels or degrees, and in order to move on into other stages of enlightenment, you must first pass several tests and be deemed ready or capable to receive the teachings of higher degrees. Most common Freemason lodges are known as the Blue Lodge, where its members belong to a local community and only end up achieving the 3rd degree, or Master Mason. Many Freemasons join the Brotherhood to simply contribute to their society, or become involved in the development of their community and include tradesmen, bankers, judges, business owners, religious figures, mayors and political figures, teachers, and several other members of importance in the maintenance of a community. A majority of these Masons are harmless, in the fact that they only want to maintain the flow of the society that they belong to. However, several Masons progress into higher degrees and become members of other secret societies that have stemmed from Freemasonry. Many scholars and researchers trace Freemasonry back to the Knights Templar in the Middle Ages. However, it is to my belief that its esoteric teachings date back much further. The Knights Templar were simply an order of knights created by the Church to provide a military for itself to protect the wisdom and stronghold of not only the Church, but of the empires established at the time. The Templars were also the first bankers in history, having gained much wealth from the loans made to kings and royal houses during times of war and conquest. This allowed for the strengthening of the Church as Christianity continued to influence a majority of the masses. It is likely that Freemasonry can be traced back to the conception of Christianity and its sub-religions and the various authors of the Quran, Kabbalah, and the Holy Bible. As royal houses continued to maintain their power, Freemasonry and the ancient teachings, along with newer religious concepts, were used to ensure that the power was never lost and could never be lost as history moved onward. The bloodlines of royal descendants remained protected as long as these systems of power were in place, and a secret society existed to be able to filter out any threats to the crown. New empires were built, and Christianity was developed to become the world's religion, intended to replace all other religious doctrines that would take root or were already established. Essentially, Christianity and many other similar practices are Masonic religions. As stated earlier, Christianity was heavily influenced by older religions such as the Egyptian and Sumerian beliefs. The writings found in various books of the Bible contain stories of metaphorical half-truths and hidden meanings. The Bible is meant for interpretation, and only those enlightened to the true decipherings of these stories have been allowed access to the truth, or the light. Many key political figures, monarchs, philosophers, religious and military figures throughout the ages have claimed descendancy from biblical figures, or claimed to be descendants from tribes mentioned in the Bible. In modern times, the Red Cross is known for being an established blood donor organization and is overseen by Masonic institutions. The symbol of the Knights Templar is also the Red Cross, as they were known to be the keepers of the Holy Bloodline, or the blood of Christ, referred to by many as the Holy Grail. The importance of the royal bloodline can be traced back to Sumerian and Egyptian demigods, half humans and half gods, and is the reason why many of our world's rulers are so closely related. They have maintained their power and control over the empires for centuries, and by the use of Freemasonry have been able to establish new empires and city-states, and ensure that all religious, political, and economic activities are protected and allowed to function without any interruptions or hindrances. Many symbols are used with multiple level interpretations to show that it is a part of the secret order of the ages. Evidence of this can be found on the coat of arms of families and royal houses, on flags, logos, and emblems, and on billboards and advertisements. They can be found on your currency no matter which part of the world you live in, and they can be found through various media outlets such as music and television. Once one is aware of just how great an influence it has had on their lives, and is able to translate the meanings of these symbolic images, the world becomes alive with a whole new light, telling a story to the few who are able to make the connections, while remaining hidden in plain sight to the majority of the world's population. The placement of symbols is so effective because just as in early cave drawings and Egyptian hieroglyphs, it tells a story without the use of words and can be interpreted on varying levels. A simple lion or an eye can mean much more than the average person would suspect. As a Mason advances through the various degrees, they are taught the differing meanings of the symbols until its true revelation is achieved. Although lower-level Masons do not receive the teachings of the higher degrees of the craft, they play an integral role in the structure of the Masonic Foundation as they act as its defense to protect the organization from accusations of corruption, scandals, or wrongdoings. Although a majority of Masons are not responsible for the blemishes which have scarred human history, it is the higher levels and more occult-based secret societies which have been influenced by the hierarchy of Freemasonry that move on to greater seats of power on the world stage, such as Skull and Bones, Trilateral Commission, Council of Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, and the Bohemian Club. These secret clubs and organizations were created to maintain the control over political and financial aspects, whereas the Knights Templar, prior to Sion, the Rosicrucians, were established to maintain the spiritual and religious aspects of control. Agencies such as the United Nations, CIA, MI5, FBI, KGB, and NSA were created to provide the backbone for intelligence in military matters and oversee issues of national security and law enforcement. All matters of life as we know it are strictly controlled and governed, and it is for this reason that secret societies have remained such an item of controversy and elusiveness throughout the course of evolution of history.
Now a question. What have Herbert Hoover, Art Linkletter, Jack London, and Richard Nixon all had in common? Well, they've all been members of the exclusive all-male Bohemian Club in California, where every year at this time the elite from around the country get together for 2.5 weeks of fun and games. Steve Shepard has this special assignment report.
More than 2,000 members of San Francisco's exclusive and all-male Bohemian Club have once again descended on Northern California. These men will spend most of the month of July encamped on some 2,700 acres of pristine and privately owned redwood forest. Forest very much like this. The place is called Bohemian Grove, and it's located just 80 miles north of San Francisco. The Grove is the Bohemian Club's summer retreat, and its facilities are hidden beneath lush forest canopy extending south from the banks of Sonoma County's Russian River. For more than a century, the camp has been a place where club members and guests from all across America gather to relax. The retreat is divided into dozens of small camps, the most prominent of which is called Mandalay. Among its members are businessmen like Leonard Firestone and Edgar Kaiser, and political figures like Gerald Ford, Henry Kissinger, William French Smith, and George Shultz. President Reagan, Vice President Bush, and Defense Secretary Weinberger are members of other camps. Richard Nixon is a Bohemian, and so are high-ranking executives of such companies as Eastern Airlines, Standard Oil of Indiana, and Bank of America. For the most part, the men of Bohemian Grove are over 50, highly successful, and, according to many employees, politically conservative. Membership in the Grove is by invitation only, and is determined by such factors as social standing, occupation, and personal connections. Privacy is one of the Grove's most cherished virtues. Members may not photograph, record, speak, or write about activities at the retreat. Sociology professor William Dumhoff found out enough to write a book on the place.
Well, I think it's a playground for the powerful. It's a place where wealthy men from all of the United States gather for 2 weeks to relive summer camp with this ceremony called the cremation of care that begins the 2-week encampment where the body of dull care, symbolizing woes and concerns, is burned on an altar in front of a big owl statue. When that ceremony ends, they all start to cheer and yell and hand each other a beer.
Discussions at the Grove in the 1930s helped lead to the development of nuclear power and the atomic bomb. It was at the Grove in 1967 that Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan hashed out differences over their presidential ambitions. Each year, guests like Henry Kissinger or Zbigniew Brzezinski address members on their areas of expertise. Presidential counselor Edwin Meese will be among this year's speakers. And each year, other guests come to the Grove simply to enjoy themselves. This year, CIA Director William Casey is a scheduled guest of John McCone, former CIA Director.
And what you're looking at here, staggeringly, is a group of people, some of the most famous people in America, in long gowns. Behind them there, you see a 40-foot stone owl. And there's the fire between them, next to the lake at Bohemian Grove. Now, one might wonder, understandably, why the people that run the banking, political, economic system and the media in America should be dressed in long robes doing a ceremony to a 40-foot stone owl. I think we should be told.
When will you learn that me he cannot slay? Year after year he burned me in this grove, lifting your puny shouts of triumph to the stars. But when again he turned your faces to the marketplace, do ye not find me waiting as of old? Fools to dream ye conquer care.
she was part of a team that successfully recorded part of the initiation ceremony that takes place in the tomb's courtyard.
Okay, you have the doorway here.
Yeah.
Okay, then to the right you have a hedge, and then you have an evergreen tree. If you follow that line straight back, the courtyard's in there.
Oh, okay.
So
that's where they have the ceremonies in
the outdoor part of it. Part of it was indoors. So we only got to see the outdoor part.
Right.
We only got and to listen to the outdoor part. God only knows what went on indoors.
And what did you hear? What was it you know? You managed to get this unique
It was
access to it.
disgusting. It was gross. I mean, they were pretending to murder people. And
What was the tone of it, though? Was it jokey or was it
vicious.
quite...
No, it wasn't jokey at all. It was sick. It's about the only way I can describe it. It was sick.
What you're hearing is the first recording ever made of the Skull and Bones initiation ceremony. It has never been broadcast before. 15 new members of the club are being introduced into the macabre rituals of Skull and Bones by the senior students who are about to graduate. The club has what some might see as a strange fascination with death, skulls and bones. There's the chants too, difficult to hear first of all, but including the devil equals death and death equals death.
But when you get into a secret society of spirit worshippers, then, and especially when you're invited there by the direction of the higher-ups in the spirit world, you never get out of there alive. The high priest of our society, secret society, has been told that the master has very special plans for you two.
Now, what did he mean by the master?
Satan. And we were interested to hear more about it. And he told us, he says, look, we worship spirits. We worship Lucifer and all his angels. They're just as beautiful as they did before they were cast out of heaven. He says there was a misunderstanding in the whole thing, he says, among the inhabitants of the galaxies. And he says our master was misunderstood, and God did not bear with him like he does with people that make mistakes today. So we're in a warfare, good against evil. And we happen to be the evil ones, but we're not that bad. He says, I look at this business between the forces of good and evil. He says, you believe in one person believes in God, and everyone believes in Lucifer. It's like politics.
So the great controversy is real. And you've heard someone talk about it that's on the other side.
Like the priest mentioned, there's thousands of spirit worshippers in only different societies of spirit worshippers in this world. But he says, we are the elite. We know the real truth about the master and his angels. And they are not hideous-looking beings. They are gorgeous creatures. To find a way of being able to get total control of people's minds. And that would be done by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introduce it as a new science for the benefit of mankind.
So part of what the high priest told you was Satan's strategy to take total control of people's minds.
They could then use people of great renown, educators, people of capacity.
If we look at this diagram, we will see the basic structure of the secret Illuminati. Back in 1776, they structured the Illuminati with 13 positions, but around the time of the American Civil War, they restructured it somewhat so that what they created was this first level, your anarchy level here, and then a hierarchy level, and then your special committees and councils. They're very similar to what we saw on our diagram, where you had your, remember on your Gnostic religions, where you had your broad mass religions and your initiate group. On the anarchy level, you'll find thousands of different witchcraft groups that each have their own rituals and their own beliefs, and they look disassociated and unorganized and unrelated. But then, if you are selected to go beyond that, you will enter the hierarchy level, and as a little girl, for instance, you would be part of Sisters of Light, and then as a teenager you'd be inducted into the Mothers of Darkness, and then you would progress to the Grandmother level. And they have many special committees and councils. For instance, your council of 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, your Grand Druid Council, your committee of 300, your committee of 500. Over here, you see represented again that same three-tiered pattern that I was talking about, and this is the Satanic Brotherhood, which is organized in hubs. The Satanic Brotherhood and Illuminati are like this. They're essentially one organization, except the Illuminati is technically Gnostic dualism. They believe that your good deeds must balance your bad deeds. If you were to follow the life of somebody that was inducted through one of the Illuminati orders, like the Order of the Skull and Bones, you'll see that they are tapped as a candidate for first year or knight and a patriarch, may rise to leadership within the Skull and Bones. From there, you'll see that they progress to the Council of Foreign Relations, whose equivalent is the Royal Institute of International Affairs, then to the Round Table groups, and then to the Pilgrim Society. The Pilgrim Society is far more powerful than Council of Foreign Relations, although very few people know about it and talk about it.
Here are the facts. On May 1st, 1776, a Bavarian professor named Adam Weishaupt founded a group called the Illuminati, or Illuminated Ones. Historians don't always agree on all of the group's goals, but those goals did include the abolition of organized religion and the destruction of the nation-state. In a word, anarchy. But that wasn't uncommon at the time. Many Enlightenment-era intellectuals condoned some form of benign anarchy. Weishaupt's group differed initially in its strategic spread. Members of the Illuminati infiltrated the lodges of Freemasons to gain influence and power. Oddly enough, this plan was a success. The Freemasons were already a secretive organization, and they had a penchant for welcoming freethinkers like Weishaupt into their fold. Members of the Illuminati rose to positions of leadership in Freemason lodges throughout Europe, and they did so in secret. Weishaupt's group developed a system of codes and secret gestures to preserve their covert order, and only the Illuminatists at the top of the organization knew the full extent of their plan. However, the Illuminati themselves had internal conflicts, and soon former members came to the authorities with ominous stories and accounts of strange rites and dangerous, world-changing schemes. This created an uproar in the establishment, and by 1785 officials in Bavaria ordered both the Illuminati and the Freemasons suppressed. After this, it becomes difficult to track the group. Some members doubtlessly went underground, and some conspiracy theorists believe Illuminati members triggered the French Revolution. Although details of the group's actions remain fuzzy, most mainstream historians agree that the Illuminati fizzled out and disappeared after 1785. Or did they? Historians differ on some details of the Illuminati and its founder, but agree that Weishaupt was both a real person and the real founder of the Illuminati. After Bavarian officials ordered the group suppressed, Weishaupt fled Ingolstadt and settled in Gotha in 1787, where he renounced his connection to secret societies and passed away in 1830. To some, this death marks the end of the Illuminati, but to others Weishaupt's death was far less important than outsiders suppose. In fact, they don't believe he founded Illuminism so much as he revived it. And the Illuminati, according to some conspiracy theorists, aren't Bavarian at all. Here's where it gets crazy. Many conspiracy theorists believe the Illuminati's origins date back into prehistory, operating under different names throughout the ages, including the Brotherhood of the Snake. Conspiracy theorists such as William Bramley believe that this secret society can be found in Sumerian scriptures that mention the Anunnaki, who are alternately described as aliens, angels, or gods. The creatures allegedly came from another planet and created human beings as a race of servants. Weird stuff. Here's where it gets even crazier. Theorists like David Icke believe the ancient aliens bred with human beings, creating a race of hybrids. According to Icke, many of the world's elites are descended from these hybrid bloodlines. He also believes these beings can shapeshift between reptilian or human forms. And who are these Illuminati exactly? Icke has named everyone from the banking families to U.S. presidents, European royalty and celebrities as members of this secret, not entirely human organization. In Icke's view, the Illuminati have therefore been with human beings for a long, long time, and have consolidated control over the world's media, its finance, and governments. With such outlandish claims about the Illuminati's origin, it's necessary to dig up some proof, and that's the problem. While it is true that Sumerian records describe a mythic Anunnaki, there is no hard evidence that these creatures were real, rather than works of folklore or religious fiction. Additionally, it was not uncommon for secret societies in the 18th and 19th centuries to create a mythology about their group's origin, pretending to descend from ancient figures such as Hermes or Thoth. These claims of eldritch magical beginnings added a certain allure to organizations. Skeptics are quick to dismiss these claims as smoke and mirrors. But here's the catch for the conspiracy theorists. If these elites actually do control everything, then they have the ability to rewrite history, covering their tracks. In this context, the absence of any proof is occasionally seen as a vindication of the conspiracy theorist beliefs. Adam Weishaupt was a real man, and the Bavarian Illuminati was a real organization. But did Weishaupt found the Illuminati, or did he simply revive a much older, more secretive group?
In 1775, Weishaupt was summoned to the House of Rothschild by Mayor Amschel Rothschild to begin the organization of a secret society which would be able to gain control of the world through the governance of resources and finances, militarily, and through the means of reason and logic. The group's ideals were heavily drawn from the philosophies of Enlightenment-era pioneers such as Christian Wolff and Isaac Newton, whom were also famous Freemasons of the era. By 1776, the first chapter of the Order of the Perfectibilists was formed in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, which later became known as the Order of the Illuminati. It saw religion as a hindrance to its goals of creating a one-world government system, and therefore denounced God and other religions, and saw itself as the opposing force, or satanic in nature. The group was adapted by members whom saw themselves as being enlightened, or possessed the light of Lucifer, and gained the attention of many atheists. The group structure was created using the same system as Freemasonry, with various levels and groups assigned to specific duties in carrying out the agenda of their goals and intentions. The group's philosophies began to spread very quickly throughout Masonic lodges in Europe and eventually making its way to the lodges in North America as well. In 1784, an Illuminati member named Lanz was struck by lightning and killed in Ratisbon while traveling on horseback to deliver top-secret Illuminati documents. When Bavarian officials searched the contents of his saddlebags, they became aware of the existence of the Order of the Illuminati and found plans which outlined the details of the coming French Revolution. The Bavarian government attempted to alert France of the approaching danger. However, due to the influence of Masonry and members of the Illuminati in both governments, the French government failed to do anything about the warning. Many members of the Illuminati were arrested by Bavarian officials, as the group was then banned outright. However, due to its influence in the Masonic lodges of Europe, it simply went underground. Upon raiding the home of an Illuminati member named von Zwack, Bavarian officials discovered additional documents which became known as the 25 Goals of the Illuminati, which essentially called for the worldwide revolution which would be the great work of the secret societies. Weishaupt and many other members left Bavaria to find refuge in other areas in Europe and were successfully able to influence on a greater scale as a direct result. After fleeing Bavaria, Weishaupt received the assistance of a well-known Freemason and Duke in Gotha named Ernest II of Saxe-Gotha-Altenburg, whom has blood relations to today's royal bloodline of the House of Windsor, formerly known as the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. With the assistance of royalty and in exile, Weishaupt was able to write many new works, and in 1786 wrote a piece called Apologies of the Illuminati, where he seemed apologetic and attempted to distance himself from his earlier beliefs and practices. By this time, however, it was much too late, as the Illuminati gained more acceptance by supporters of the ideals of the Enlightenment and a vast amount of Freemasons throughout the world. In 1789, violence erupted in France, and the French Revolution overthrew their existing government and attempted to abolish Christianity from the nation. Additionally, a half-naked prostitute was placed on the altar of the Cathedral of Notre Dame and was extolled as the goddess of reason. Meanwhile, in America, John Adams won the 1796 election, likely due to his opposition to Freemasonry, and his son, John Quincy Adams, was noted as stating, "I do conscientiously and sincerely believe that the order of Freemasonry, if not the greatest, is one of the greatest moral and political evils." This had little effect, however, as just 2 years later, in 1798, George Washington acknowledged that Illuminati activities were being practiced in America, and went on to say, "It is not my intention to doubt that the doctrine of the Illuminati and its principles of Jacobinism had not spread in the United States. On the contrary, no one is more satisfied of this fact than I am." As the years